You're doing the
There-
PowerPoint thing, right?
There's a number
Got it.
down on the bottom. Someone else.
Yeah, you know what? You're gonna need to pass control over to me for some of this, Sherry.
Oh, how do I do that?
Yeah, control freak.
No, it just worked. I saw his computer set up. He's got like those two big
I'm
screens.
just kidding.
No, it's cute. It's cool. Whoa.
Sherry,
That's cool.
Sherry, there's a little icon on top of my screen that says recording. Are you a recording already?
No,
Yes. Yes.
I am. Oh,
Yes.
whoops.
I'm hoping everybody can see, but I wanted to welcome everybody. Sherry, by the way, you can turn the recording back on if you want to.
I did.
Okay. So welcome everybody, and we wanted to kind of start tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming holiday season and how to manage it while dealing with being on the weight loss part of the program. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the thought processes to work with, but we're also going to talk about some of the tools and strategies that we found to be very helpful, and having worked with a lot of Frum clients over the past several years. So, each year, Sherry, this is yours actually.
Right. Okay. I don't see that little thing we were discussing before, but okay.
It's okay.
So we always say Happy New Year to each other. Happy Sweet New Year, happy and healthy. But, what do we actually mean by that when we're saying like a sweet New Year? Like, do we really mean it? Like all the honey cake and the kugels and, everything sweet, 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 right? I mean, it's yum, right? But what do we really want from all that, right?
Right. So we kind of talk, so we kind of talk a little bit about Teshuvah, at this kind of season. And we talk a little bit about how Teshuvah means, return or repent. And really what we're trying to do is we're talking about, returning to the best and most full versions of ourselves. We're really talking about, how God gave us one body and one life. And through unhealthy habits, many of us did ourselves a lot of damage. And that's not what we want to return to, right? So one of the questions that you have to ask yourself is, do you want to return to your previous lifestyle and to your previous body and your state of health? And that's something that you're going to want to be mindful of during the course of the holiday, of all the holidays, because you want to just keep that in the forefront of your mind. So we prepared a little bit of a worksheet to go over for yourself, and the link you can actually see in the slide. You might want to copy it down or take a picture of it or something like that, but the link is there and you can download that document. And basically what it is it's just a little bit of a worksheet, and it's not something we need to go over now or anything like that. And it's not something that you necessarily have to show anyone else, although you might consider it sharing it with your health coach. But the idea is that it's for you, and it's to help you get clarity on what it is that you want through the holidays. So we start off talking about, actually, Sherry, why don't you go over the slide a little bit?
Right. Yeah. So we came across, we thought it was like a really good idea because it really works with our whole idea of what is Optavia all about. Are we at the optimal version of ourselves, and are we at that point where we want to be with our lives, with our health, and what do we expect from ourselves? So this is a really good opportunity. It's a good time of year to like reinforce some of those whys that maybe we started out with, or maybe we're just starting out. Just like we're really looking at ourselves from a cheshbon hanefesh, cheshbon haguf type of mantra. So the same way, we really want to like take a look, what are our health goals here? And this is like such a perfect timing. We have three-day yontifs in a row. What better time is to go over this than now, right? I mean, seriously, this is just going to really help you focus. You can kind of look at this. If you want to write this out, maybe you could have it on a place where you want to look at. Not everybody needs to know about it. It could be your private thing. You could have it on index cards. Maybe this could be something we could do with sticky notes, just to remind you, even over the yontif, on the Yom Tovim, where do you want to be? And, what do you want to accomplish? Like, where do you want to be, the day after, besides that it's Gedalia, what do you want to feel like the day after Rosh Hashanah is over, right?
And the day after Simchat Torah.
And I was going to say that. And Chol Hamoed and all in between, right? There's all these days to do opportunities. And, why did you kind of go over, why did we choose these goals? What stands out in our mind that really what's our vision for ourselves? So at the same time we're doing a spiritual accounting, we're also doing a mental and a physical, that we're combining, because as we all know, the three-legged stool, without one, we don't have the other. And if one isn't really reinforced and really working well, then the other ones aren't going to be as strong. So we just thought this was a great addition to, pre-Rosh Hashanah. I think I'm going to email this out. If you haven't received it, you could ask your coach. It's also a good time to not just look at what you want, but, what's holding us back. We want these goals so badly. We want to feel healthy. Everyone has a different why, like, what they want, how they want to feel, how they want to look. But we all come up with obstacles. And I know we have a great book. I know Stacy and David have The Obstacle is the Way. It's also a great book to kind of help you overcome those hurdles. And we really recommend that type of a book. And if you, we can help you find it. It's on Amazon, what have you. And make a list of, what obstacles, like on two sides of the sheet, what obstacles are preventing you to reach the goals you really want? And then what habits do we need to throw behind us? What's not helping us get to where we really want to be?
Right. So, so basically, what we talk about is making choices. And this is one of the things that we talk about a lot in our program. In life, you have to make a lot of choices, and they're discussed a lot in The Habits of Health, and they're discussed in Dr. A's ebook and Stop, Challenge, Choose. So really, we understand that people have to make, choices, and sometimes they have to make difficult ones. And we found that during the holidays, most people tend to stick to one of the following choices. And this is basically how they go through how they choose to go through the holidays. Okay. Yeah. So hang on a second. So there's that. Okay. So here are the different paths that people tend to decide to work through. The first is that they tend to stick to their plan, and they continue to lose weight even through the holidays. And it is possible to do. You have to be a little bit more rigorous, but it's possible to do it. That's the first. That's the A plan, so to speak. The second one is do sort of a maintenance plan. So this can involve eating some foods that are off plan, but being mindful about what it is that you're eating and how much of it you really want to have. And both of these involve using a lot of the tools that we have in our toolboxes to help us stay on task. And then finally, the third approach is that some people just choose to say, it's the holidays, woohoo! I'm going to eat whatever I want. I can go back on plan later. And some people do choose to do this. Obviously, we don't recommend this plan for most people, but we have had clients choose this option and still manage to get on plan, back on plan later and be successful. The most important thing is to make it a choice instead of kind of letting it happen to you. Whatever it is that you decide that you want to do, you want to make that something that you decided that you were going to do and that it went according to your plan. Even if the plan is to go off your plan, at least make sure that that's what you're planning to do. And whether you're going to try to stick to your weight loss plan or you're going to go on a maintenance plan, it's still very important that you continue having your meals beginning early in the morning and then every 2.5 to 3 hours. And this can be particularly difficult on Rosh Hashanah because the services run so long. So we recommend that you consult your rabbi, but you may be able to allowed to drink a liquid fueling before you go into the services, for example. You might be able to bring some with you for during the services. The ready-to-drink shakes are ideal for this. And I very often, for example, I usually bring some of those, and I'll have maybe 1 or 2 of them, depending on the timing, during the course of the davening, because I'll just step out for a minute, drink a shake, and I've had my fueling, and that's what I needed. So be sure to talk to your rabbi about what you can and cannot do, and explain why this is an issue for you. Some people have also chosen to make kiddush for themselves after shacharit in order to eat a bar or a muffin or something else that they prepared for themselves in advance. And many clients find it easier to just switch from a 5 and 1 to a 4 and 2 during the Yom Tov days themselves, and then switch back to a 5 and 1 afterwards. So you'd still need to be eating the same amount, but you might, you would be able to eat more of the meals and that might be helpful for a lot of people.
Ari's meeting, not Paula's meeting.
I might actually recommend that more so than a 5-in-1 because of the amount of time that we're sitting at the table, we're with family, with friends.
And there are multiple meals.
Multiple meals, and just the fact that we're exposed, it's going to be hard just to have, whatever little goodies that we've made up for ourselves. So this, it's not something I did initially, but I think it makes a lot more sense in general. I think that's the general consensus that this is the best thing to do. But again, it's your choice. If you want to stick with the 5-in-1, then you can do that. But just be realistic. If you really feel craving or hungry, just do the 4-in-2. Don't even think about it. Like really, it's not a non-issue. You'll still lose weight. You can still lose weight. Don't worry about it.
Right. Okay. So go ahead, Shari.
Sorry, my screen got a little cuckoo. So, there's a lot of different ways to look at the holiday in terms of, plan. We're so used to having our traditional foods and, the holiday, the apple and the honey and all these simanim and all those things. It's okay when, and again, I'm not telling you guys what to do. I've been in other people's homes where they do a lot of simanim, and we were just never so big on that in my family, whatever, but I've been in other people's homes. I'll take some of them. I don't have to take, at least when I'm on, program, I don't have to have every little thing. This is a minhag, it's a strong minhag. It's whatever works for you. If you have a little piece of tasting it, it's okay. If you feel like that you want to have that, don't kill yourself and feel, oh, I'm so guilty. I had I had to see one of the simanim. But there is plenty, kabocha squash, and there's zucchini. I mean, there's plenty of, on plan, cabbage and things that work with it. Leeks, you can make a really healthy idea of leeks. If you're invited to someone's house, offer to bring a siman that it's going to be a healthy one. And there's great recipes that we've come out with. Some people find it really helpful to measure out portions ahead of time. We know we've seen this in some of our WhatsApp groups. A lot of people will do that ahead of time, and it really makes sense, from a standpoint that you're not going to overeat, you're not going to be tempted. And, one of the good ideas is like when you're physically finished eating, like what you need to do, the amount that you need, it's a good idea just to like push yourself, like I just pushed the computer away, but just push yourself back from the table a little bit. Talk to your friend, talk to your neighbor. Another good idea is like taking the glass in the hand. I have a water bottle in my hand, and just holding on to that, keeping your fingers busy, right? If you have a fidget thing, hey, if that works, one of those fidget things. And then talk to people. It's Yontif, like make it about the holiday. It's, it doesn't have to be about food. Be that role model for the rest of the people at the table. We've actually entertained a number of people on Yom Tovim, especially Rosh Hashanah, and they're amazed that, we could still have a very Yontif type of meal, and it's healthy, and it doesn't have to be all the drippy, sweet stuff. Dave and I always talk about, prepare something, a nice word to say at the table, something that's going to inspire everybody. Here we're talking about becoming the best versions of ourselves, whether it's from Judaism or, you can be that inspiration, that light, among the table, and people they won't make fun of you. They'll actually be like, wow, that's amazing. Like you're still doing this, you're really keeping up, you're sticking to your goals. Again, I know my first Rosh Hashanah, it's like the apple and the honey was like, whoa, that was a big thing for me. But, just have a little bit, right? Don't do too much. And, make sure you have small amounts of challah. I know from the years, we are so used to having like so much challah and honey as a little kid, right? You look forward to that. But this is not what you want in life right now. That's not one of the things that's going to help you achieve your goals. It's your choice, obviously. When the dessert's coming, around, or if someone asks you to make dessert, like I know I personally will lick the batter when I'm cooking or baking something, maybe ask someone else to bring the dessert, so you're, if you're that type of person, or serve something that not really your fancy, you know what I mean? And maybe there's chocolate mint or something. I don't like chocolate and mint together. I always give those examples. And, don't feel guilty if you end up messing up in one way or another. It's not the end of the world. You just get right back on plan. Just go move forward. I mean, that's what life is about. We don't stay, we don't want to stay in the trenches. You got to jump out and get back on the road and, move forward, because that's when it's going going to help you through, make you through. Like we got these 3-day intensives in a row. So we don't want to fall down and say, oh, you know, we messed up one time, I'm just going to throw in the towel for the whole 3 Yom Tovim. Like, no, that doesn't have to happen. Just because you messed up one little time does not mean anything.
Martin, would you mind muting yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Okay. And
right.
I think we were finished with this slide, dude.
Yeah, okay. That's fine. All right. So we wanted to talk, you know, we have have the tools that we can use now. So, you know, we know about a lot of the tools that we can use. And one of the biggest tools that we can bring to bear in this is what's called something we call the advantages list or the personal gains list. And if you're not familiar with it, maybe talk with your coach about it. But the idea would be use it. And if you know what it is, like I said, definitely talk to your coach. But that's one tool that you can use. Another strategy for success is to play through the scene in your head in advance. So, for example, you know, we call it gaming. Like I call it gaming anyway. But what you do is, you know, if you know what's going to be served and everything, envision the table. Think about all of the foods that are going to be served. And then decide ahead of time what it is that you're going to have and what you're going to pass on. And the reason that you do that is because then when the food actually comes around to you, you won't have to make that choice when you're vulnerable. You know, it's that point of decision when sometimes you're vulnerable, but if you've already made that decision in advance, it's easier to stick yourself back to the, you know, I already had a plan. I already decided I wasn't going to have this. And so therefore you can pass on it a lot easier. And that's one way of being able to handle that problem. Afternoons especially, you know, can especially be difficult if you're just sitting around and doing nothing. And we kind of get into these repeated patterns of pray, eat, sleep. You know, pray, eat, sleep, pray, eat, sleep. That's what we do in these on some of the, you know, the big holidays. So change it up some. Focus on enjoying the company of the people that you're with. You know, if the weather's nice enough, go for a walk. Take your kids or your grandkids to the park. If you have to stay indoors, try reading a book, learning, meditating, even, you know, I mean, whatever it is that you need to do, but, you know, play a game with the kids or, you know, or whatever, but just do something to kind of make the time, you know, while away the time, because otherwise what happens is that for a lot of people, the tendency is to fall into food. So try to do some other things. So we kind of, you know, had a couple of like a scenario, and some of these scenarios, you know, a couple of them came out. Actually, I think there's only this one. But this scenario actually came out from a conversation we had with a client and coach who actually were dealing with this. So we're gonna kind of play out the scenario a little bit. You know, so basically the scenario is you're invited out for a meal. You know, let's say to the rabbi's house, or let's say to somebody else's house, and they're serving some things that you might not want to eat or are not on plan for you. So, I mean, I don't know, Shari, do you want to play it out or do you want to just discuss it? Shari?
I muted myself. If you want, we could do it quickly. Otherwise, we could just talk about it.
We can just talk about it. It's fine.
Okay.
But that's fine. So some of the things that you can do for this are, the first thing is if you don't know what it is that they're going to be serving, first of all, so if you don't know, you can eat something first. So that way, when you go, you're not really feeling like all that hungry. You're not starving. Because if you go and you sit down at a meal when you're starving, you know, then one of the things that happens is that you have a tendency to overeat just because you're hungry. So eat something first so that you're not all that hungry. Again, work with the advantages list. And the advantages list really is a list of the reasons, you know, we talked about it briefly, but it's the list of the reasons that you're trying to accomplish this. But again, go over it with your coach. Also, and this was one of the things that kind of came out of a conversation that we had with somebody, which was, you know, how do you let somebody know? You know, let's say, again, in this case, she was going to the rabbi's house, and, you know, and she felt embarrassed about trying to tell the Rebbitzin, you know, that certain things that she can't eat. She kind of felt embarrassed about that. So what I asked her at that point was, I said, well, you know what? Kids can't eat, you know, very often can't eat certain foods. You know, would you hesitate to call and let them know that your kid couldn't, if your kid was dairy, you know, couldn't eat dairy? Would you not tell them? If you were diabetic and there were certain things or if you had a food allergy, would you not call up the host and tell them, okay, just so that you know I can't have these things? Of course you would tell them, you know. And if the food came in and was coming to you, if somebody came to your house and had a food requirement and didn't tell you until they came, how would you feel then? You know, I know that in our experience, we've had that happen, and all of a sudden we felt terrible because suddenly, you know, here we are, we have, you know, everything's at the table, and our guest is there at the table and can barely eat anything. So you have to think about it from that perspective also, is that if this is something that's, you know, that's really important to you that you're trying to do, you can call up somebody and say, I'm really trying to stay away from these foods or whatever it is. You can do that, and that's okay.
Right. I just wanted to add in just quickly, Adina mentioned about role-playing peer pressure. If you will be dealing with people who aren't supportive and try to persuade you to eat things you prefer not to. So, you know, pre-plan that role play. You could actually do that with your coach.
That's a great idea.
Or, you know, I'm available if anybody needs. Plan out, you know, envision what's going to happen ahead of time, and not just like, oh, you know, what do I say? They want me to eat this. They want me to taste, you know, like Sally's, you know, pie, or, you know, something like that, you know, or Bubby's this. You know, I've seen that happen even over Hanukkah in my shul and Kiddush time. And it was like somebody was kind of really made feel guilty, like, oh, you want that last donut, you want that sufganiyah, you know you want it. And the guy really didn't want it. He wasn't even on plan. He was just trying to eat healthy. And he was like almost coerced into eating it. And he felt so guilty afterwards. It's like, that's not what we should be doing. It's almost like that Jewish mother guilt thing. Like, it's like, why do people do that? You know, and kind of think about it. It's like, you know, and I think like David said, you can either call the guest, the host ahead of time, or just like in the beginning of the meal, just kind of like go up to him. It's like, you know, I just want to let you know, I'm really trying to eat healthy. They don't have to know you're on a quote Optavia plan, or, I mean, you can tell them, I mean, fine, it's whatever you're comfortable with. But just say, I'm really trying to like stick to a healthy regimen, and I would appreciate if you just didn't like, you know, push. I know you'll understand, you know, because you're my friend. If people are really your friends, they're gonna understand, right? They're not gonna like go, oh, you know, like there are people like that. We all know people like that, and we just have to put them in their place. You know what I mean? It's like we have to say, this is what we want. These are my goals, and I hope you can respect it and say it in a nice enough way.
I mean, I know, you know, you can liken it a little bit. I mean, I have this happen all the time in my, you know, in my other work, where I sometimes have to meet people, you know, in a place that's not a kosher, you know, like a non-kosher restaurant, or I'm at an event that's taking place in a non-kosher restaurant. And yeah, I will invariably have somebody say, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I feel so bad that you can't eat anything. And I always tell them, it's like, you know what? I knew I couldn't eat, you know, I knew I couldn't eat here when I walked in here. You know, I understand that you might feel bad. Don't feel bad, because I don't feel bad. I knew. I was walking into this with my eyes wide open, so it's okay. So if you're really in that situation that you're walking in and they have foods that you can't eat, you can still say to them also, you know what, it's okay. I knew that there were going to be things I couldn't eat here, and I'm okay with that. Don't worry about it. So so to kind of take the pressure off of them that they're feeling bad, you can do that too.
And don't feel bad to ask them. You know, that I was once at someone's house, the best cook in San Diego. I couldn't eat a thing. Everything was deep fried and all that. And I noticed at the end of the meal, she had salmon in the kitchen because her husband was vegetarian. I'm like, if I had said something, I could have had salmon, right? It's like, it's of our own concepts that we're like, oh, I don't want to bother them, but you know, it's okay. Anyway, so we might as well take this opportunity to jump into fast days, because we have some people who haven't been with us since Tisha B'Av, and we have Tzom Gedalia and Yom Kippur. So just going over, you know, what we know before and after a fast. Before a fast, obviously we've been eating a lot, you know, the last few days. Drink a lot of water. Maybe now is the time to go get that Powerade Zero or Smart Water. You know, chicken soup broth, I guess, like anything with the electrolytes, or even probably
electrolytes, right.
We're doing the 4 and 2 anyway. If you want to have something, you know, later that night, you know, an extra fueling, extra little protein, you know, the night before, that also works.
Well, for Tzom Gedalia it does.
Right. Yeah, if you want to do that.
Yom Kippur, you're out of luck.
And I mean, I think for the most part, just from what I hear and from my own experience, I think everyone might agree is that we're used to eating a lot less than we normally do. So the fast isn't as hard as it used to be. I used to think it was going to be worse. And some people do think it's worse. And it's not. I don't know. Like, maybe you have the caffeine headache. There's a Somcal. There's like stuff you can get now in New York. I saw on the counter. Somebody please send me some.
Right. And then during the fast, during the fast, itself. So first of all, remember that the fasts are important, but your health, it really is more so. So you always should be in touch with your rabbi regarding any health concerns. And if you're really not feeling well, make sure to speak with him or have someone speak with him on your behalf. On some Gedalia, there might be reason to be able to be a lot more, more lenient and allowing you to break the fast. But even Yom Kippur, if you're really ill, then you should make sure that somebody is talking to the rabbi, on your behalf or whatever, to deal with some of those health issues. And they're familiar with those issues. It's not like this is all news to them, so they will be able to deal with some of those things. So do be sure if you don't fast well and are having a problem, do be sure to communicate with them. And then breaking your fast. Gary?
So the same thing. I find that not to eat too much. Having make sure you have a water bottle. I have a water bottle by my bed, even the first night.
I have one always.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it even more so. So, again, for me, I find having a shake is the best way. I get, it's just, it's relaxing. You don't want to eat or drink too much at one time because you get that throat constricting type of feeling. Don't overdo it and have a big steak dinner after a fast. I mean, now is the best time to have, when they say you can only have 3 eggs in 1 week, once a week. Now's the best time. Have the 3 eggs after a fast. Have something lightweight. Eat slowly. Eat one little thing at a time. Like, don't stuff your face. Don't stay in the shul and have the orange juice and the cake, whatever, like most shuls have, like break the fast stuff. If you feel like you're going to succumb to that, you could put something, your husband's talus bag ahead of time or whatever, if you need. But it's
or your own talus bag.
Or whatever. I'm saying I live pretty close.
Some of you are men.
Right. That's true. And it's also a good idea, like, don't eat too much. You could have a couple of, fuelings and a lean and green, but don't have all 5. You don't have to have all 5. Some people say you do. There really is no one set path in terms of that, because they don't really have recommendations for that. So what we have found that I think is the best thing is wait a few hours, like, the second hour, let's say the fast is over like at 8 or something like that. So like at 10, have something, again, like lightweight. You don't want to go to bed on a full, stomach. Maybe the next morning you'll be famished. You know what I mean? It'll go back very easily, 1, 2, 3, and maybe have the Powerade again, but just make sure you chug water.
Yeah,
it's really helpful.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's basically it. We want to thank you very much for joining us tonight. And we wanted to end this, this year by wishing you all a Shana Tova Mituka, a year of sweetness, of
happy,
life,
healthy,
and not a sweetness of life, not of food,
right?
And a year of health, success, and happiness,
and achieving your goals in your health and your life. And we don't want this.
Right. That's it.
And call your coach.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. So,